it would find everybody at the next level, and so on. So this is one use of this syntax. You can also use it to generate data. So here's another neat application. I can generate a set of data that I'll just call data. It starts with the one record from dual, so we'll just get the number 1 from dual, and then we'll feed it into the union all query. That will just select 1 plus 1 from data, where 1 is less than 5. Okay? That gave us another row, 2. We feed 2 into that query, then we'll select 2 plus 1 from data, where 2 is less than 5. That where clause is satisfied, so we feed that in. And we keep doing that until we generated 5 rows of data. This allows us to do some interesting things. We can fill out time series values with this, generate a set of all the dates between 2 dates, and then use this in other parts of our query. Here's another use for this. If you're into Sudoku, you can use this query to solve any Sudoku puzzle. So a developer out there, Anton Scheffer, took this Sudoku puzzle, said, if you take this puzzle and you give me this string where you leave spaces where the missing values are, and you feed it into this SQL query, I will print out a string that has all of the Sudoku puzzle filled in. So this was a pretty interesting use of this. Now, we probably have no real need to solve the Sudoku puzzle in your production systems. This is just a hint as to things that you can do with this. This is a procedural program written in a set-based language, because we now have recursion, which is a lot like having looping capabilities. So we can do things in SQL now that we couldn't do previously. Number 5, improved time tracking. Way back in Oracle 9i, we introduced a feature that we called Flashback Query. In Oracle 9i, you could log into a database at 11 o'clock in the morning, and you could run a query, select star from emp, as of 9 o'clock this morning, as of 2 hours ago. And you could see the data that was in the database 2 hours ago instead of right now. As soon as we did that, people started asking the question, how far back in time can I go? Can I use this feature as an audit trail? Can I select star from the table as of 5 months ago, 5 years ago? And the answer with Flashback Query in 9i and 10G was no. You could theoretically go back 5 days ago, but 5 weeks, not a chance. 5 months, no way. Starting in 11G Release 1, they added a feature called the Flashback Data Archive. This does give us the ability to query the data as of 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years ago. However long in the past you needed to retain this data. The way this works in 11G Release 1, as you did your DML, data modification statements against the data in the database, your inserts, updates, and deletes, you would modify data in the buffer cache. You would also generate undo information, rollback data. That was in the event that an error happened and you needed to undo your changes. After you commit, another process called the Flashback Data Archive, FBVA, would come along and read this undo information back your change, see what the row looked like before your transaction took place, and insert that row into an archive. So it would save the old version of that row off in another table. This is what allowed us to query the table as of 5 months ago, because we had to have every row change that happened to that table recorded in this history, in this archive. Some of the features that were missing from this in 11G Release 1 were the ability to do things to the table that did not generate undue information. The DBA could not truncate the production table, because truncate does not generate undo. The DBA could not drop a column from the production table, because that doesn't generate undo. The DBA could not reorganize the table, because that does not generate undo. So the DBA was prevented from doing a lot of operations. If you had a table that was never going to change, 11G Release 1 would have satisfied your need with the Flashback Data Archive. But most of us need to modify our tables over time. We need to drop columns, reorganize them, and so on. 11G Release 2 gives the DBA the capability to do that. You can now drop a column from the table. If I drop a column from my production table, it will only drop it from the table. It will not drop it from the data archive. In the Flashback Data Archive, that column will remain. So if I drop a column today, and tomorrow I did a Flashback query a month ago, that column is still there a month ago, I'll be able to see it in the Flashback Data Archive, but I won't be able to see it in the production table. So the historical values will remain in the data archive, but we can still clean up our production table. The DBA can truncate the table if they'd like, and we can reflect that change in the Flashback Data Archive. We won't truncate the archive. We'll just recognize that all of the records were deleted in the archive at that point in time. We can also do any complex DDL, data definition language, changes that we want to do. The DBA can break the link, disassociate the connection between the archive and the production table. Once they break that link, disassociate the history table, they can do whatever they want to the production table. They could reorganize it. Maybe it was not partitioned before. They could partition the table, restructure it. Then after they're done with their reorganization, they can associate it back to the history. They can relink the table with the archive. So this gives them the ability to detach it from the archive, perform some large operation on it, and then reassociate it with the history. So in effect, there's not any operation that the DBA is prevented from performing on these tables now. So you have the full set of functionality along with this long-term archive. Number 6, you've got mail. It's not email. It's more that you have a new file. A new file has arrived. This capability allows the database to detect when files are created in the file system, and when they're created, generate an event in the database. This event can then cause a stored procedure to be executed, or it could be placed in a queue where an application can then receive that message and perform some operation. So maybe you have a directory where people place report files, and every time a report is generated, you would like that report to be loaded into the database. In the past, you would probably write a cron job or something outside in the operating system to look at that directory every